more. Joining us now from Tel Aviv is Michael Oren, former Israeli ambassador to the U.S. Ambassador, great to have you here with us. We really appreciate it. How would you assess the current situation?
Very complex, Jessica. It's always good to be with you, too. This morning, early, 6 rockets were fired from Lebanon at a northern Israeli town of Metula. Previously, about 60% of the houses in that town have been destroyed by Hezbollah rocket fire. It's the first major violation of the ceasefire by Hezbollah. There have been many smaller ones, and Israel returned the fire. Returned the fire with airstrikes and with artillery fire. This is in addition to the Houthi rocket attacks from Yemen, which occurred last night about 10 o'clock here in Tel Aviv, and the day before, rocket attacks from Hamas in Gaza. So Israel is being shot at pretty much from every border as of tonight.
And so put the pieces together for us as Israel returns to action in Gaza, as it's being attacked by Hamas, by the Houthis, as you note, by Hezbollah. Where does Iran sit in all of this?
In all of it. All of it is about Iran. Hezbollah, Hamas, the Houthis, they're all proxy organizations from Iran. And I can't put a finer point on it. And that's to say that nothing is going to stop in this region until Iran is cowed, bowed, and deterred.
And so where do you see this ultimately headed toward? Is it, as some think, headed towards some sort of strike against Iran by Israel, potentially with U.S. assistance? Obviously, President Trump has asked the Iranians reached out to them and said he wants to negotiate over a potential nuclear deal. Where do you see this going?
Well, President Trump has written to the supreme leader of Iran, offering to him to enter into negotiations. That point was reiterated by the special U.S. envoy, Steve Witkoff, this week, saying that the offer remains on the table. The Iranians have so far rejected it rather flagrantly. And if they continue to support all these proxies that are firing not just at Israel, one of the Houthi missiles fell in Saudi Arabia today. Other Houthi missiles have been targeting international shipping in the vital Mandab naval area, the sea lane, where a huge percentage of the world's sea traffic travels. The United States has said that there's a credible military threat on the table. Israel certainly will use all of its means possible to defend itself against Iran and its proxies.
And meantime, amidst all of this, there are still these 59 hostages that are still being held in Gaza. And of that number, fewer than half are believed to still be alive. How likely is it, do you think, we will see all 59 returned back home? And does this return to fighting, Israel has often said that that's the military pressure they need to inflict in order to get them home. Do you think that's true?
Well, according to the government, and I'm not a spokesman for the government, but also according to the White House, the United States and Israel made an offer to Hamas to extend the ceasefire for as much as 50 days in return for getting only 5 hostages back, 5 living hostages, and Hamas turned it down. So Israel had no real choice but to go on and renew the military pressure on Hamas, with the assumption that in the past, increased military pressure on Hamas has forced it to relinquish hostages. In some cases, unfortunately, Hamas has not relinquished hostages. It has shot the hostages. So there's no guaranteed formula here. Jessica, we got to put it in terms of hope. We hope that by ramping up the pressure on Hamas, Hamas will come back to the negotiating table, negotiate for an extended ceasefire in return for getting a number of these living hostages back to their families and homes in Israel.
And as we talk about this tonight, we saw people again on the streets in Tel Aviv calling for the hostages release, protesting as well. What is the general feeling there in Israel about the best path forward? Because obviously we hear from the government officials. What are people in Israel saying?
Well, according to all the polls, majority of Israelis feel that Israel should agree to any terms that Hamas gives us, including ending the war, withdrawing all of our troops from Gaza, extending a ceasefire pretty much indefinitely in order to get the hostages back. And then once the hostages back, our army can be rested, our army can rearm itself and wait for Hamas to violate that ceasefire, because Hamas always violates the ceasefire. And then our army will go in there and complete the job of destroying Hamas. That is the opinion of the overwhelming majority of Israelis tonight. The government does not agree.
Right. And we will see that tension that you just laid out, how that plays out and what exactly happens in the coming weeks and days. Michael Oren, always a pleasure. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Jessica. Good night.
Good night.